Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. Been a while since I've done one of these. I do get very busy sometimes. Usually if I don't do a video review for a while, it's going to be because of a combination of just work and also Horizon Forbidden West, which is this game that I've been playing for off and on over the past 2 years. Since this was released, and well over I think 1,000 hours off and on trying to put together the perfect game file. Pretty hilarious. I've put 2 videos, each about 30 minutes long, kind of touting my perfect game file on Horizon Forbidden West, only to discover that it's not perfect and that there's more to be done. So I'm hoping the third one is the charm. Really done a deep dive on that game. But of course, when you spend time doing that, then you have less time to be making YouTube videos. So I need to catch up a little bit. I have a lot of really good stuff, nice reviews, and for me, because I don't do this for a living, this is not a channel that I use to make money or to create revenue, and because it's mainly just kind of for myself and my own passion, my own interest. I kind of have to be in the mood a little bit, right, to be able to talk about it, because if I'm too tired, I just don't feel it, and I don't feel like I want to talk about it, then that's going to come across, it becomes sort of pointless. And so there is unfortunately that long delay because of that. And I have so many things on my plate that I do want to review, and my interest to shift from time to time. So for now, I'm still continuing to go through the Master Replicas lightsabers. I have at this point almost all of them. They're slowly trickling in, and again trying to put together the only series on YouTube that really delves into all of these pieces in some detail. There's a couple out there on 1 or 2 or a certain number, but none on all of them. So I feel like I'm trying to at least contribute to that, because this was such a amazing lineup of collectibles from Star Wars, the original trilogy and the prequels. It will, in my opinion, it will never ever be done again, and I don't think it's close, actually. And so I think it is important to just put it out there on YouTube, so for the future, if you're interested, there's at least some place you can go on to take a look and get some information if you're interested in buying some of these off the secondary market. So this one is going to be no exception. I think it's going to be a long video. I don't know. All of them are long to some extent, but this one, of course, has a bit of a story, like with so many. As you can see, this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi weathered lightsaber hilt from Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. This is what Alec Guinness wielded in that movie, or rather an idealized version of it. This was released very early. One of the earliest lightsabers. I mean, I don't think it's Dooku dual signature level early, but it's in that generation, and of course you can tell because it has the mirror base where the acrylic cover actually sits inside the base, versus the newer generation where the acrylic case was on the outside ledge. So you can see that this base is the same base as you would get with Darth Vader dual signature, with Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker, with Count Dooku. So this is of that generation. Okay, so it's a very, very old release. This is one of the coolest lightsaber designs from the original movie. I personally think this is, of the original trilogy, this is definitely, I think, my favorite design, at least. It just, to me at least, it just looks, way more like intricate, detailed than like the Vader lightsaber from the MPP flash gun and the Luke version from the Graflex. So, I mean, visually speaking, to me at least, I find this to be the most striking. And I think a lot of people agree. It's certainly very desired. I think Star Wars A Theory a couple years ago posted a YouTube video where he spent like $5,000 on a brand new, complete in-box Obi-Wan weathered. And, he got a little bit of a flack for that, I think, in the comments, because, that's nowhere near what you should be paying for something like this. But I mean, he runs a very, very successful YouTube company, not company, but a very, very successful YouTube channel. He makes good revenue from that, and he just really wanted it, and he didn't want to wait around for the right price or whatnot. And so all power to him, But I would say, a brand new inbox Obi-Wan, in my opinion, is not really in the 5,000 range. Perhaps 2 to 3K, I think, would be reasonable. Ones that are opened have been running in the low thousands, like 1,200, give or take, just depending on how lucky you are, how fortunate you are. And I had a lot of like near misses with this. There was one where I literally missed a really nice, version of this for like, I think 1,200 shipped, which is an amazing deal. So I missed on that. And so I finally managed to snag one off of eBay, although not without a little bit of drama. So this eBay listing was for an Obi-Wan Weathered. He had the box with the lightsaber that the lightsaber came in, but that was it. He had the case, the base, and then he had the plaque, but no stand, and he didn't have any paperwork at all. But he did have the hilt itself, and he said that the hilt was in basically, was in great condition, but this is like heavily weathered. So if there was really any damage, I think it would be very difficult to actually tell on this particular piece. And you'll see that when I open this thing up for close-ups. And that was really it. And so, I got it for about 1,200 and change, and then with tax and shipping, got to about 1,300, which I think is it's not unreasonable, but the thing that I didn't like about the listing is that it was one of those eBay listings that's kind of like my pet peeve, is that the seller really did not make an effort to try to accurately describe what he or she has, and that to me, kind of bothers me, because it kind of speaks a little bit to the integrity of the seller. If you're trying to sell a piece for over $1,000, then what you have, and then if you don't very clearly state what's wrong with it, then to me at least, there's a little bit of an ethical issue there. There's almost like my feeling is that you're trying to hide something, or you're trying essentially to withhold information, and you're forcing the prospective buyers to kind of do the work. Now, there's nothing illegal about that, and that's fine on the surface of it. It's not your job, to do the buyer's work for them. But I think that in general, a lot of sellers, myself included, when I do sell, we don't do that. We're very transparent, and we try to list very, very clearly up front the issues with whatever we're trying to sell, so that when you get the piece, it's very clearly, it's very clearly written on the listing what's going on, so there's no disappointment and there's no drama. And this person, I don't feel, did that. He just put like a couple of pictures on there, not very good. And then basically the listing was just very straightforward, like, hey, this is it. What you see is what you get. I really dislike, sellers that do that. And he did do that. So, I was kind of busy. I had forgotten about it. And then one of my friends kind of sent me the link and said, hey, do you want this? It's about to end. I was actually out and about. So I, looked on my cell phone. I kind of made some mental gymnastics, made some decisions on the fly. There was only a few minutes left on the auction. I've been looking for this for a little bit of time. And while, pieces are out there, I had like nearly gotten it like 3 or 4 times and missed each time. And I really did kind of want to get this. And so even though I didn't have the paperwork, I decided, what, I'll go for it. I'll put a bid in, and then just take my chances with trying to get the certificate of authenticity at a later time. Even though I know that the chances of that happening is extraordinarily low, and I probably will have to buy another version of this with the paperwork and then try to sell this, I decided to go for it. And then, I did buy it. And then, only later on, well, let's continue with the story. So I basically, messaged the seller. He basically took close to a week to ship it to me. His excuse was he just got a new job, was just too busy. But that was kind of annoying. So number one, already it's kind of a little bit, not too great that they shipped it late. That's number one. Number two, he charged me $50 shipping, and then he only paid for like, I think the cheapest UPS ground or something like that, which was like $15. He definitely didn't insure it at all, because when you're charged $15, there's no insurance. So he decided to ship a $1,300 collectible with no insurance, which again, it's a little bit unethical at this point. In my thinking, in my opinion, I don't think that's very good practice. I asked him, because again, the case and the base, there's no box. He doesn't have the box. He only has the box for the hilt. So I said, are you going to ship it carefully? He said yes, and then when I got it finally in the mail, again, uninsured, other than the basic UPS insurance, and it came in like a brown box, absolutely not good quality. If you rate the quality, if you know what about shipping, there is like a rating of the box about how strong it is. So definitely cheap cardboard, and inside was the box holding the lightsaber, and the case, acrylic case, and the base was just basically wrapped in a red t-shirt, and that was it. No peanuts, no foam, nothing at all, just loose in the box. It came that way. Okay, and on top of that, my name is Dennis, for those of you who might be interested, and this was addressed to David. So ship late, charged me extra shipping, didn't pay for very good shipping, didn't pay for insurance, put the name wrong, very, very cheap, not very professional packaging. So again, my question that I have to ask myself was like, was this guy a moron or like an a-hole, right? Like, are you just a jerk, or are you like both? You're like a dumb jerk. It just seemed really, like unbelievable to me that this is what happened. On top of that, the way he shot the picture, it made it kind of look like the plaque had a stand, but if you look at it closely, he just put the plaque on the mirror base, and so indeed there was no stand, and I had to, I had to source one myself. The acrylic was horribly, just dirty and scratched, and the base was dinged up, a lot of little chips all around the edges as well. So, in the sense that I was sort of disappointed because. When you see when you get this in the mail, and like the whole experience was just kind of negative as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, it was difficult for me to decide what to do. I haven't left feedback for this guy yet because I just wanted some time to process what to do. I don't want to frivolously leave negative feedback. I've only, like, in my 30 years on eBay, I don't know if I ever left negative feedback. I might have left it maybe once or twice, so I hardly ever do. I'm very careful about that. And technically, he didn't lie, and technically, this did come without any extra damage from shipping. He was extraordinarily fortunate, but as I've just mentioned, there was just a lot of things about this entire transaction that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So at the end of the day, I did the best I could. The only good news, of course, is that the lightsaber itself was in great condition. But of course it is, right? It's made out of machined aluminum. It's in a felt box, and it's not exactly going to break. So I didn't have much worry about that. And this is the Obi-Wan weathered, which means it's just, and let me tell you, it's horribly weathered. You'll be able to see that when I actually do the close-ups. And so it's not like I have to worry about, him accidentally scratching. This is not like an elite edition or something like that where, like a Count Dooku or Mace Windu, where it's like chromed and gold plated. And, it has to be really taken care of very well. This is the most weathered lightsaber beyond the Luke version 2, beyond anything else, So there's really nowhere that you can really get away with a lot of little imperfections and scratches again for a piece like this. So again, technically, he didn't misrepresent the listing. The only thing he really did that was, in my opinion, a little bit dishonest was the shipping, trying to just, make another, $30-40 on shipping. And what, kind of upset me was, essentially trying to nickel and dime a $1,200 or $1,300 purchase. So I'll decide later on what I want to do. At the very least, I will be sending him a little private message, letting him know that, his stupidity was not appreciated and also not unnoticed. Maybe he's just hoping that all of this stuff would just fly under the radar, but it hasn't, obviously. Here's newsflash, guys, like when somebody spends like $1,200 on a lightsaber, things like that tend to not go unnoticed. So having said that, I took the acrylic case, I polished it with my normal, fine scratch remover and my brilliantized polisher. And I think, I did reasonably well. It's still not perfect, but I think, as you can see, as I'm twirling this around, that the acrylic is in decent shape, okay? I painted over, just with cheap black paint, all the little wood chips, so at least, it doesn't immediately stand out like a sore thumb. I'm sure that as I'm rotating it, you can see the little tiny imperfections. But again, a little bit of a worn base seems to be in reasonable keeping with the weathered theme of the hilt itself, okay? So now with that little introduction for how I got this in the first place, let me take the acrylic case off. You can see that this acrylic case is, again, the classic, very, very, short or, like stubby version and way smaller. So these, the Master Replicas, cases in the early going was definitely quite small. So I'm gonna take this thing off and put that aside. And now we have the mirror base. And since we now have the acrylic out of the way, so we don't have to worry about excessive reflection, that's gonna be a little bit distracting. I'm gonna put on my usual black background right on over here. So again, you can see it much better. So there you have it. Before twirling it around, let's take a look here at the actual plaque. You can see here like a little tiny, imperfection. This is definitely a guy who did not take good care of his stuff. But 23 years, right? This was released sometime in 2001, 2-ish, so a good 20 years, 2 decades. We can all be super careful anal people. Here's the MR logo, Lucasfilm logo, Episode 4, A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber, limited edition, 643 out of 2,500. The interesting thing is it doesn't actually say weathered. It's just the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber because that's the one in the movie, that's the classic one. There's no need to say it's weathered. Weathered is something that's on the internet and that we use to describe it. If you look at my other video review of Obi-Wan Kenobi's as first built by, which is the pristine version of this, it actually says as first built by on the plaque. This is a display stand from a guy named Ariel, and luckily he happened to have a perfect stand for this particular plaque. He has most of the stands for all of the Master Replicas plaques, and so I was able to get that from him for not very much money. And luckily, because he lives in Southern California, I was able to get it in a couple of days. So I'm pretty happy about that. I don't remember if this is the original. I think it is actually, because the original version of these, the stands are the kind of the clear acrylic ones, like for the Darth Vader, the Empire Strikes Back, the New Hope. They had the sort of the clear acrylic leg, right, that you put the aluminum plate on, and Luke Empire had the same. But I do believe that by the time they got to Obi-Wan Kenobi, they moved to this kind of black stand. And again, as you can see, it fits completely perfectly. So I do think this is an original. So in any case, this is the stand with the display pack. We're gonna set it aside. And then we're going to start twirling this around. Again, with the black background, you're gonna be able to see a lot more clearly what this lightsaber is like. As you can see, when we turn it under the glare of the lights, you can see all the little areas of black that I painted down here. These are all like areas that were wood chipped essentially. Again, you can do a better job, match it much more easily, but I just wanted something quick fix to just kind of cover it up. And again, under normal lighting, it's a lot less obvious. So there you go. I'm gonna push this back a little bit more. So I'm gonna lift the hilt to give the close-ups. Most of this review with me talking, is, I think, just superfluous. I try to give some interesting background. I mean, for those of you who don't want to know the story of a horrible eBay transaction, you can just mute me. But the main reason I do this, by the way, is so that I can actually, lift the hilt off of the acrylic legs and just kind of admire it, touch it, and then film it, in close-up so that you can, again, see all that loving workmanship. And even if I don't say a lot about it, at least you can see it. And videos like that are very rare. There's a lot of like fanboy videos where some guy's just basically holding it and just kind of like, geeking out over it, which is really, that's fine. I mean, I really enjoy watching those because I feel the passion from that person. And, those videos were kind of what inspired me to get into buying these in the first place myself, because like they loved them so much, and that kind of awakened my love for Star Wars and the Star Wars props. I mean, it would have definitely been a lot cheaper for me if I had that love about 15 years ago, right, when they first came out. But there you go. So that's kind of the main reason I do these, and that'll come later. So as we start, twirling around, a little bit of background information. This, was kind of the most mysterious of the lightsabers from A New Hope. When I say mysterious, I mean for the longest time, they really had no idea like how this was built. When they shot Star Wars A New Hope, especially the Tatooine scenes in Tunisia, a lot of the props for that movie was basically made from military and airline scrap, and they would just tear them apart and use them to make droids, to make ships, to make lightsaber parts like this. And after the movie, it was just disassembled and recycled or thrown away. And so it was very, very difficult to actually figure out exactly, how they did it, what they did. And in fact, it wasn't until 2005 that the mystery was completely solved. And so, one example, for instance, illustrating how hard it was to piece together exactly what the different components of this hilt came from. The IG-88 droid from Empire Strikes Back, it was known that was made from, the head was made from parts sourced from like a jet engine. And then much later on, when that jet engine, a version of that jet engine was, procured by a hardcore fan and then taken apart, initially just for the purposes of maybe, creating an IG-88, while taking apart that jet engine, a piece of the engine came out and they realized that this was actually identical to the emitter for the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber. So that's just like a coincidence, but an example of what it took to figure out exactly where all of this came from. Now, some of it, of course, is pretty obvious. We know that the pommel came from, for instance, a faucet, right? Just a simple, kitchen sink knob, and everyone knows the exact bubble strip and the Graflex clamp. But other components were, quite a bit more challenging to figure out. Okay, so there you go. So let's take this lightsaber in our hand, and while I'm holding it, we'll go part by part, section by section, and I'll describe exactly where all of this came from. So I'm going to move this out of the way so I don't accidentally hit it with the lightsaber. So we're going to lift this up. So first of all, as with all of the Master Replicas lightsabers, this is machine metal, extremely heavy, very satisfyingly so. And you can kind of get a feel for this. So before really talking about it in too much detail, let me just go close up so you can see all of the fine detail here. So you can look at the weathering. I mean, there's really not one part of this hilt that's not really weathered, except maybe the pommel looks pretty decent. You can see the weathering here, the scratch marks here. Look, you can see the rust bits here. Like sometimes when Master Replicas does weathering, it doesn't look that good, but this is like one of the best weathering jobs I've ever seen. I mean, it really does look like this thing sat in the sands of Tatooine for like 2 decades or whatnot. It's just remarkably good. Some other pieces look like the weathering was like just sort of painted on, or it was like created. This is something that I do feel is a little bit of a detraction for the Star Wars Return of the Jedi Luke version 2 weathered lightsaber. But this weathering, I mean, just check it out. Look at the little tiny scratch marks. Look at the brushed metal. But then there's like this kind of contrast between the rusted old part, like right here you can see the little spots, and then like the actual polished version. It looks random is what I'm trying to say here. You can see this little screw right here, also old and rusted. And then here's the transistors, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Here's the clamp box, here's the lever. Look at the rust and the weathering on this. And then again, you can see the bubble strip right over here, 7 of these, and then all of the, all of the rust spots. It's just beautiful. And then here you have the grenade section. Really, really heavy. I'm gonna just twirl that around. You can see again all the little edges that are worn off, right? And then the neck right over here. I'm gonna turn it this way so you can kind of see that as well as I can show you. So this is hollow in this area. Just trying to twirl it around. See the neck on the other on the undersurface. Trying to show you the best I can. And then here, and on the end, this is the actual emitter. Check it out. So this emitter here is actually the most non-weathered part of it, which I guess if you think about it makes some sense, because this is where the actual lightsaber would actually emit. I guess it would just burn everything out. So there you go. Sorry, just try not to damage the base or anything with this angle. But you can see actually at the very, very bottom, there is some of that rust and weathering too, down at the very, very bottom of that. And then moving on from this angle. So you can see with, with a piece like this, minor damage is just going to be invisible against the background of this. So I'm trying to go super close. This is on 4K, by the way. This is 1080p, I think. But I'm going to go as close as I can. So twirling it around so you get to see all of that wonderful detail, all the way throughout. Right here, from the other angle, going really, really slowly. Just a great job overall. Yeah, they don't make proper replicas like this anymore. I don't think they ever will. So here's the D-ring, and then you can see right here, 2003, so 20 years, Lucasfilm LTD. You can actually, it's a mirror polish. You can actually see my iPhone and my neck. And then here's Master Replicas LLC, okay? So this is it. Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber. I'll do another video comparing this with the as first built by, so you can clearly see the difference. But yeah, this is definitely the coolest design of all of the lightsabers from the New Hope. I mean, it was so cool that they actually reused it to give us the Return of the Jedi Luke version. And they had to come up with some story angle to justify it, saying that he did it to honor Obi-Wan. And then later on, it became something the Padawans just did, for their masters, to honor their Jedi masters. All right. Beautiful hilt. Really, really happy that I have this finally in my collection, even if I don't have the paperwork, even if I don't have the certificate of authenticity. But just having this and holding this and being able to admire it and then review it for you guys is worth it, Okay, so you ready for some history? Let's take a look at all the different parts. So we'll start at the top with the emitter. So I think the emitter is this piece here, and maybe I don't know whether it includes the neck. Like, does the neck come with this part, or does the neck, come with this part? Like, what part is the neck like coming from, right? I think all of this stuff here is part of the emitter, is from this jet engine. So the emitter is actually a balance pipe from a Rolls-Royce Derwent 8/9 jet engine. And it was basically from a fuel pressure regulation assembly in that jet engine. And specifically, this whole part here, was the female segment, all right, the large or female segment of that assembly. So this part here actually came from a jet engine, believe it or not. And it came from the same jet engine that they took apart and used to build IG-88. So that was from earlier in my video that told you how they found this out. Now moving down, this part here, from here to here, I don't think it includes this. I think this is from the engine. So from here to here, and if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, but I do believe that, the actual grenade part, this grenade section is this thing here, right here, from here to here. And it's a grenade from a 1916, number 3, World War I Mark I British rifle rod grenade. So that's where this central part came from. Pretty cool. And the one that we all recognize, this section here, of course, is from the Graflex clamp from the flash gun. And then this is the Exactra strip from the Texas Instruments calculator. And this section here, with the lever and the clamp, is essentially identical to the Luke Skywalker lightsaber from A New Hope. Okay, just, of course, obviously much, much more weathered. And it has a little bit of this, this metal, ring on both sides to kind of accent the piece. So there you go there. There was talk that chrome tape may have been used to sort of hide it and make it look a little bit shinier, to hide some of the imperfections on the set. The grips over here As you can see, they're not rubber and they're not T-strips. So, this part here is actually the booster section, the booster part of a Browning ANM2.303 Mark II fighter machine gun. Specifically, it's the section between the barrel and the flash suppressor of the machine gun. So that's this section right here, okay? So you got like a section from a grenade. You got a section from a jet engine. You got a section from a grenade launch, grenade. You have a Graflex clamp, and then you have a section from a machine gun. I mean, how amazing is that? And then finally, to top it off, the pommel is a chromed British sync knob. The exact model is Starlight. It was made by Armitage Shanks. So, a very specific sync knob, right, to use as the pommel. The D-ring, of course, was drilled into position and added. These are 2 transistors. They're backed by washers, and these transistors are set at 9 o'clock with the bubble strip at 12 o'clock, okay? Now, there are some minute differences between versions of the Obi-Wan lightsaber. Specifically, there was a version shown in the Chronicles book. I own that book, by the way, and at the time, it was a really big deal because that book really showed you pictures of props from the original Star Wars trilogy that had never been seen before. And so in the Chronicles, in the Obi-Wan lightsaber that was in the Chronicles book, it was missing a washer. And I guess that's the one that Master Replicas maybe, went to for their, master when they made their replica. There was some talk about whether that version was actually used in the movie or was just, built later on for the book itself, okay? And then all of this whole thing was all put together by just basically, basically putting them over a rod and then, screwing it down tight. That was probably how the original prop was made. So again, rod and nuts to hold all the different components tightly together because they're all basically the same diameter when you see it. The narrowest part, of course, is the neck, and this is probably the diameter of the rod that would go through all of this, okay? And the D-ring over here that you see, is basically opposite to the transistor. So the transistor is over here, and you can see if the transistor is over here on the 12 o'clock, you can see the D-ring is basically opposite where the transistor sits. These are small details that don't really matter to me, but for, prop replica enthusiasts, they're obviously very, very important. So that's a pretty long review, guys, for, the Obi-Wan Weather lightsaber for Master Replicas, just because there's a lot that goes into this piece, a lot of history, a lot of detail, a lot of knowledge, and then I wasted 15 minutes of your time by complaining about the idiot that sold it to me. But I'm glad that I took this off of his hands so I can treat it with the love and respect, obviously, that it deserves. So we're gonna get this base back into position, and then I'm gonna lay it right about here. I think that works nicely. And I may actually just rotate it a little bit because I kind of like to show the bubble strip, and you can see the transistors really nicely. So I think this kind of shows it off the best. The plaque obviously goes right in the middle between the legs where it's meant to. I'm going to take the backing off because we're going to put the acrylic case back on, just so. And we'll twirl it a little bit more. So there you go, guys. This is my complete review of the Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi Lightsaber, Weathered Edition for Master Replicas. First released in 2003. And it is definitely one of the highlights of the entire line. It's an amazing piece. And I think Master Replicas did a great job, giving us a pretty accurate, replica. I wish I had the paperwork, but there you go. Someday I'll source that. And too bad they didn't have a signature edition for this, but Sir Alec Guinness would have been a monumental task. I don't even know, if he was actually still with us, back in 2003 when they were creating this. But that would be the dream, someday creating a signature plaque and maybe just getting his name, inscribed or something like that on the plaque or something else of that nature. But there you go. This is definitely one of the, I don't know if I would make this a tier 1. Maybe. I mean, a version of this has to be in tier 1. I think in terms of the the iconic status of this hilt, this is the one to own. In terms of rarity and value in the secondary market, the as first built by pristine version probably trumps this. But if you ask me what version I would want, I can only have one version in my collection, then hands down it would be this version, because this is basically what we see in the movie. This is what made that movie an iconic, and that I'll never forget that part in the cantina where he sliced that guy's arm off, and you saw this thing there. So just a lot of memories. Definitely this version, So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that review, and I will be putting up other reviews that kind of revisit some of these hilts, because again, I love them so much. I'll probably have one comparing again the two Yodas. I'll have one comparing the as first built by and this weathered version. So we'll be coming back to these periodically over the months and years to kind of revisit them, talk again about them, show them off again, and show them in different, from different angles, and with different comparisons, which I think will make them a little bit more interesting for those of you who are into that stuff. All right, thanks for listening and for your attention. I hope you did find that interesting and that you were able to enjoy some of those close-ups of this amazing work of art. And until next time, do take care.